Hello, welcome to another Learn tutorial. In this tutorial I'm going to show you how you can make your own Scratch platformer game. Really easy. So what we've got Scratch the cat. He jumps around on the platform, he can move left and right, and then when he goes to the door he moves on to the next level, just like that. If you fall off the edge then you die and you go back to the beginning of the level. And there you go, you can have as many levels as you like. I've only done 3 levels, and just to show you a few different things. So here, if you touch the red bits, you go back to start as well. And we've also got a moving platform there we can add to the game. There we go. There we go. And if we get through to the end of the game, then it says you win. There you go. Okay, so let's get going. So first thing you need to do is create yourself a new Scratch project here. We've Scratched the cat, and what we'll do is we'll change him down to about 50% of the size. Yeah, that's okay. Scratch the cat there. So he's nice and small. Maybe make him a little bit smaller in a bit. And the first thing we're going to get him to do is we're going to get him to move left and right. Okie dokie. So all we need to do here is we need to do a bit of code, and we're going to say, okay, when the game starts, we're going to start the level. So I need to broadcast a new message saying start level, new message, start level. There we go. Just make that a bit bigger actually so everyone could see that. Probably a little bit too big. Yeah, that'll do. There you go, start level. So we're going to start the level. So nice and simple, when we start the game, we're going to broadcast start level. But before we do that, we're going to set the level at the start of the game to level 1. So the way we do that is we create ourselves a variable by going to the variable blocks and call that level. And a variable, all a variable does is it's a container with a name, so this one's called variable, and we can store values in it. And all we're going to do here is we're going to say, okay, when we press start, we'll set the level to 1. There we go. We're not going to use that just yet, but we'll use that in a bit. And that's okay, good stuff. So what happens when we start the level? Well, when we start the level, there we go. When I receive start level, what we're going to do is we're going to set the cat's velocity to 0. And there's 2 parts to the velocity. There's the velocity where he moves left and right, so that's his speed left and right. That's known as his x velocity, just like in maths. And we got his velocity up and down, which is his y velocity. So in order to do that, again, we need some more variables. 2 variables, one called x velocity, and we're going to set that to 0 because at the start he's not going to move left and right. And we're going to do another one, and this is called y velocity. There we go. Y velocity. So those 2 are set to 0. There we go. Oops. Put them in there. We want to reset his speed to 0 at the start of every level, so that at each level you don't want him moving at the start in case he drops off the end somewhere. So we set his x velocity to 0, his y velocity to 0 at the start of the level, and then what we need to do is we need to get him to move left and right. And the way we do that, first of all, is we put it inside of a loop, because we've got to be constantly checking to see if he's moving. And then we say, okay, if the left arrow is pressed, we'll do left first. If the left arrow is pressed, we're going to move him left. So, if the left arrow is pressed, there we go. We're going to move him left, and we'll do the same thing with the right arrow. Now, what are we going to do? Well, in order to move him left, we're going to need to change his velocity. Now, what we've got here is x velocity. Is if the x velocity is in minus numbers, we want him to go left. And if the x velocity is in positive numbers, we want him to go right. So the way we do that is we simply say, okay, if the left arrow is pressed, we just change his x velocity and make it increase. But we don't want him to go vroom, shooting off the edge, so we need a maximum velocity left. So his maximum velocity left is going to be minus 10. So what we do here is we say, okay, so if his x velocity is greater than minus 10, so it's like minus 8 or -6 or +2 or something like that, then we're going to decrease it. There we are. X velocity by 2. We'll make it go down by, not by 2 because that's going to make it go up. We'll make it go down by 2. There we go. So if the key arrow is pressed, if its x velocity is less than -10, we change it by -2, which is good. And we'll do a similar thing here for the right arrow, but this time we won't do greater than -10, we'll do less than +10. So his x velocity is less than 10. Then this time we'll change his x velocity by 2. There we go. Good stuff. And there we are. So now if we press start, there we go. If we look at his x velocity, there we go. If we press it, there we go. It goes from -10 to 10. But you notice in the moment it just goes from literally straight up to 10 and it stays there. So if I move the cat in a minute, which I'll show you how we can move him in a moment, you'll see that he'll go really, really quickly either way. We don't want that. We want to do it so that when I let go of the key, his velocity goes back down from 10 down to 0. And the way we do that is at the end of the code here, what we do is you say, okay, if here's, in fact we can use this bit of code here, can't we? There we go. After all of the movement here, which we haven't actually done yet, in fact, actually, let me show you that in action. Let me show you, we're going to change this in a minute, but if we change his x by x velocity, we're going to move this out of here, but let's just show you how that works. So what we can do now is, there you go, you can see him moving left and right, and he moves really, really quickly. But if I let go of the key, then he keeps on moving, he keeps on sort of, gliding across. And we want to stop that. And the way we stop that is we use these bits of code here. But what we do is we say, okay, if here's, this time around, we say, okay, if his x velocity is greater than 0, so he's going on the right hand side, he's going right, and we change it by -1. If his x velocity is less than 0, so he's moving left, then we change it by +1. Let's just put that in there. And now you should see, if we press start, there we go, so he moves, and when I let go of the key, he sort of slows down a bit. There he is, look, off he goes. Good, brilliant. So there's the first start of it there, that's all okay. At the moment we've got a slight issue in that Scratch the Cat isn't actually animating, he's just gliding left and right. If you look at my game here and I press start, you can see that when I press left and right, he actually walks about. He changes which direction he faces, and he also animates as well. So how do we do that? Well, that's not too difficult. What we need to do though is you need to click on the costumes. At the moment we've got 2 costumes, and those 2 costumes are facing right. Actually what we're going to do is we're going to flip these costumes to face left. There we go. And we're going to rename them. That's just going to be called number 1. That one's going to be called number 2. So far we've got 2 costumes, and you can see that when you flip between the 2 costumes, if you look over here, you can see it animates Scratch the Cat in a nice simple way. So what we're going to do now is those are our 2 facing left costumes, number 1 and 2. And now what we do is we duplicate number 1, which creates number 3, and then we duplicate number 3, which creates number 4. Make sure that you rearrange them in the right order, and make sure that the costume names are all the right name. 1, 2, 3, 4. If you don't, when we do the next thing, it's all going to go wrong. So what are we going to do? Well, here, when we press the left arrow, as well as moving left, which is doing, we also need him to animate left. And the way we do that is we just say, okay, if his costume was on costume 1, then we need to change it to costume 2. If his costume was on costume 2, we need to change it to costume 1. Nice and simple. So for this we need to use an if-else, and we need to put it in there, inside of this if left arrow. Oh no, oh yeah, that's okay. Just there, not inside of this if velocity one there, because then it'll only animate if his velocity is less than -10. We don't want that, that's greater than -10. So what we want to do is put it after that, the velocity if statement here, and we say, okay, if, and we need an equals, if here's, and we go to the looks section here, and we're looking for costume number. There we go. And what we say here is we say, okay, if his costume is number 1, then we change his set his costume to number 2. Otherwise, we set his costume to 1. And now, hopefully, there we go. We click run. There you go. He walks left. Good. Says Scratch walking left. And then what we do is we do the similar sort of thing here. Duplicate those blocks, and we do it in the right arrow, which is just after the that if statement there. There we go. And this time I'm going to say, okay, if the costume number is 3, we change it to 4. Otherwise, we set it to 3. There we go. And now, oops, let's have a look. What have I done there? Oh, slight error here. He's facing left, he's facing left, he's facing left, he's facing left. What we need to do here is just click flip horizontal, flip horizontal. And now, there we go. Brilliant. Good. So we're about there. We are about there. We're moving left and right, which is good. And now what we need to do is we need to get it to move up and down, which is the Y velocity. Okie dokie. So what we need to do now is we need to get it to do the Y velocity. What we're going to do here, though, is rather than add it to this main script here, we're going to add it in a separate block. So we're going to click on My Blocks here. I'm going to create a new block, and this one is going to be called Move Vertical. Move Vertical. There we go. And we're going to make sure we tick this box that says Run Without Screen Refresh. And I'm going to tell you why in a little while. I'm going to show you why. But for the moment, just make sure you tick it, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And what this has done now is it's given us a fresh block here called Move Vertical. And it's given us a little block here that we can drag into our existing code. And what this is a procedure. And what it means is, whenever in this block here, whenever we call this particular procedure here, Move Vertical, it will actually go over to this block over here, and it will run whatever code is in that block. And it will actually pause this particular script here until all of this block has done. So, Move Vertical, what are we going to do? Well, at the moment his Y velocity is 0, so what we'll do here is we're going to move by the Y velocity. Just like we did change X by X velocity here, we're going to do the same sort of thing. So we're going to change Y by the Y velocity. There we go. Good stuff. And at the moment, he's here and he's not moving because his Y velocity isn't changing. So how are we going to change the Y velocity? Well, the Y velocity, really, it's nice and simple. All we do is we are constantly accelerating towards the center, to the bottom of the floor. Just like in Earth, where we're constantly accelerating back to the ground, we just need to do it so that it constantly accelerates. So all we need to do here is, at the start of our main script here, we just change our Y velocity, there we go, by -1. So, here we go, forever. Change the Y velocity by -1. There we go, good. And now if we press start, there it is, perfect. Let's put him back up to the top. Whee, and he falls down, there you go. So now you've got a cat that's constantly falling down to the bottom of the screen, which is okay, which is perfect, that's good. But at the moment, what we've got here is he falls to the bottom of the screen, which is fine. But we need to add some platforms because we don't want him to fall through the platforms. So let's create our first level. Here we go. Click on backdrops. And what we'll do is we'll just use the line tool. Let's change it to 30. And I will do an outline. Let's have a look. I'm going to do mine bright green. There we are. Really bright green. In fact, we'll do that sort of green, like an earthy green. There we go. Doesn't matter what colour you choose, but you've got to make sure that all your platforms that are the standard platforms are the same colour. And we'll show you why in a little while, but you just need to make sure that they are one particular colour. So here I've got 3 platforms, and I want Scratch here to, when he falls, I want him to stop on this platform. Now the way we do that is we just constantly test to see if Scratch is if he's touching the green colour. And if he is touching green, if he's falling and he touches green, we move him back up. And if he's jumping and he touches green, we need to move him back down. There we go. So how do we do that? Well, we go back to our code, and it's here in the move vertical bit. So what do we got to do? First, well, what we need to say here is we need to say, okay, if we're touching the colour green, we need to do something. So if, there we go, touching colour, no, and we'll pick that colour. That's your colour picker there. If we're touching the colour green, what we need to do is we need to decide, okay, here, if he's jumping, we need to stop him and make him go back down. If he's falling, we need to stop him and make him go back up. So how do we do that? Well, how do we know if he's jumping? Well, if he's jumping, he's going upwards, which means his Y velocity must be a positive number, which we'll do in a minute when I show you the how to make him jump with space. His Y velocity is going to go to a positive number. If he's falling, his Y velocity is going to be a negative number. So we just test to see which one that is. So here we go. If his, there we go, we'll do an if else. If his Y velocity is greater than 0, then what we need to do is, if he's going up, we need to just keep moving him down until he's not touching the colour. So the way we do that is we do a repeat until. There we go, repeat. And we say, okay, oops, not that one, not repeat 10, repeat until. Where's that gone? There it is. Repeat until not touching the colour green. And we can do that with a not. There's our not. There we are. And let's right click and duplicate that one. So repeat until not colour, touching colour green. All we do is we just change his Y position by -1. So where's his Y? Change Y by -1. There we go. So if he's going up and it hits that, and let's say he's here, then what we'll do is we'll keep moving him down a little bit until he's not touching it, and then we'll stop there. There you go, which is good. There we are. And then we need to do a similar thing with the touching the platform there. So what do we do that? Well, again, we duplicate it, and this way around we just change it by 1. So we know that if he's going up, we bring him back down. If he's going down, bring him back up. And the final thing we do after we've done all of that is we go, okay, that's fine. What we'll do here is we'll set his Y velocity to 0. And that means that, okay, if he's jumping up, at this point here, he should be still, so it should be 0. And again, if he's down here, by that point, his Y velocity should be 0. So we'll set, finally, after all this, we'll set his Y velocity to 0. Good. Let's see if that works. So let's move him up there. Oops. Okay. Let's just stop that. Let's move him up. Okay, there was a slight issue there. There you go. That's fine. What that was is when I dragged him up there, because I dragged him up and he wasn't jumping up, his Y velocity went a bit crazy. In fact, actually, let me overwrite that. Let's just say, okay, if his Y velocity is less than a certain amount, we'll set it to 0. So, here we go. If I know we can't do it in there. Put that back. We'll put it in the bottom of here. There we are. Right. If I'll put it right there after he's changed Y velocity by -1. And what we'll do here is... In fact, no, we'll leave that. We'll leave that. We don't need it because when it actually... Oh, no. No. Let's delete those 2 blocks. When we actually run the game, that won't be an issue because it will never get to that number. So I'm not too worried. There you go. But you can see here when he falls, let's just stop that again. He lands on the thing, and then if I walk him, he walks left, he walks right, and it's working fine. Okay, so there's that bit there. Next thing we need to do is we need to get it so that if when we press the space bar, he jumps. So let's have a go at that. Let's just code that. So here we can say, okay, when the space bar is pressed, the simple way to do it is we'll just set his Y velocity to 15. Now there is a slight issue with that. We're going to see that in a second. But let me just show you. So when the space bar is pressed, set the Y velocity to 15. There we go. And now, there you go. You can see it. Perfect. So here he's now jumping. There we go. Oops. Let's just jump him up. Okay. It's touching the bottom of the screen there. We're going to change that in a minute so that so let's just move him back onto there. Let's stop there. There we go. There we go. So if I jump him up and down, he sets his Y velocity to 15, which is good. You can jump up there, which is perfect. But there is a bit of an issue at the moment, and the problem is this. Let's watch. If I keep pressing the spacebar, look, whee, he can fly up as high as he likes, which is probably not what you want from a game, really. You only want him to be able to jump when he's stood on the floor. So how do we know he's stood on the floor? Well, it's nice and simple. All we need to do is we say, okay, first of all, when I press the space bar, we're going to say, okay, we're jumping. So what we do here is we make a variable and call it jumping. And we set jumping to true. There we are. So set jumping to true. And then what we say is only if jumping is false, if jumping equals false. So if jumping is false, we move it up. So at the start, there we go. If we press it now, at the moment, we can jump once, but as soon as it jumps, oh, actually, let me just set that at the start of the game, actually. Hang on. At the start of the game, set the jumping to false when we start the level, because it's definitely not jumping. So at the start of the level, it's not jumping, and there we. Oops, I've done that the wrong way around, haven't I? Oops, don't do it there. Do it that way. Sorry, otherwise that never works. That's why it wasn't working. So if he isn't jumping, make him jump by changing it to 15, and then set him to jumping. So let's have a look at that. There you go. It's done. So it worked once. Let me show you that again. But the problem we've got now is we need to have some way of saying, okay. We've jumped, we've landed back on the ground, now we're back on the ground, we need to say that he's not jumping anymore. So how do we know that? Well, actually we know that over here. So down in this block here, we know that if his Y velocity is less than 0, so he's going down, and he's touching green, that means he must be landing on the ground. So what we can do here is say, okay, repeat until not touching green, change Y by 1, and then here, inside of this bit, set jumping to false, because we know he's just touched the ground. So now, there you go, perfect. Brilliant. Good. So now he's jumping along, there you go, and he could jump. I could tap it twice, but if I tap twice, it doesn't jump twice, good. And now he's jumping between the platforms. Now there is still a slight issue here, watch this. If I go there on the side, can you see how he sort of goes up a bit weird? It goes a bit weird there. Well, we're going to look at why that is in a minute. And that's to do with the here, it's touching the green when we move across. So we can't have this simple script here where we just change the X velocity and move him across on its own. We also need to check that if we do move him across this way, he's not touching the green while we're moving in. Otherwise, it's going to do some weird stuff. So we need to stop that from happening. So how do we do that? Well, similar sort of thing with the move vertical. Create ourselves a new block here. We call that move horizontal. And again, we run without the screen refresh. I will show you in a little bit why we do that without the screen refresh. You'll see why. And what we'll do here, let's just move that out of the way. We'll pop that next to the move vertical because we're going to do a similar sort of thing with the move horizontal. There you go. And with the move horizontal, what are we going to do? Well, it's not too hard. All we need to do is a similar thing here where we say, okay, if touching these colours, then we need to move things. So it's pretty much going to be a mirror of the previous one. So here we go. If touching the color green, there we go. If his x velocity is greater than 0, so it's a bit like that one there actually. If I let's just use that bit there. We're not going to use those bits, and we're going to have to change y velocity, but we can use all the rest of it, which is good because I don't like putting effort in when I don't need to. So if his x velocity is greater than 0, i.e. he's walking right, then we need to move him back a little bit left until he stops touching things. So we'd change his x by minus what? What should we do? -2. So it doesn't glitch out as much, so he moves right away from the wall, and it also means he sort of bounces off the wall. And then we'll do that the other way for if there we are. This one's slightly different because we don't want him to move. Oh no, that's okay actually. That's fine. That should work. Let's try that working. And we won't do jumping either. And this one will set the x velocity to 0. So let's see if that works. So hopefully now, let's just move all those out of the way. Whoops. Hopefully now, when we move the horizontal, which is what we need here below there, move horizontal, it should now, if I touch that, when I jump, it should push me away from it so that it stops that weird thing of me going up there. Let's just have a quick go though. Let's have a look. So let's stop. Let's start. There we go. And here we go. Jump there. Yep, that's perfect. That's perfect. So, it's still doing it a little bit. I think that's because my... that's okay. Well, that's okay. We'll leave that for the moment. There we go. So now we've got here, we've got the platform. He's moving along. He's moving left. He's moving right. Oops, he's gone down there again. What we need to do here is we need to say, okay, if you look in my previous game, where when we got to level 2, there we go. If you fall off the edge of the platform, you need to go back to the start of the level. So how do we do that? Well, what we first need to do is we need to set the level up so that when we start the level, we go to a certain point. So here we go. We say, okay, when I receive start level, what we're going to do is we're going to find out what level it is, and then whatever level it is, we're going to move him to the correct position. So we can say, okay, if the level equals 1, which we're on there, if level equals 1, level equals 1, then what we're going to do is we're going to go to this position here. That's going to be the start of the first level. We'll start him there. So how do we find out what that position is? Well, you can look at these values here that show where it is, or actually what happens is when you drag Scratch around, if you look at these numbers here as I'm drag Scratch, those numbers actually change automatically to the correct position. There you go. So now what we can do is drag those in there. So if level equals 1, then go to this level. And also, as well as going to that level, we also need to make sure that the backdrop, this backdrop, changes to backdrop 1. So, go back to sprite 1, go to our looks, and we'll switch to backdrop 1. So now, anytime I press start, he goes straight to that position. Even if I move him over here, if I click start, he goes right to that position. There you go. Good. Done. So there's that bit there. He now walks and he jumps between platforms. What we'll do now is we'll just hide these variables because we don't need to see those at the moment. And now what we need to do is we need to create a door here so that when he gets to the door, he goes to the next level. Well, how do we do that? That's nice and simple. Go back to our backdrop here. And this time we need to make sure that we choose a different color. I'll use a black outline, and I'm going to do like a sort of a brownish fill. Like a dark brown fill maybe. There we go. So there's my door, and I'll just draw a door up here. Whoops. Maybe do that to like 3 or something. So it's got like a thin door. There we go. Oops, what have we done there? Let's delete that. Let's put my door there. Okay, so there's my door. When I reach the door, I want to change to the next level. So how do I do that? Well, again, nice and simple. All we do, in fact, let's go to backdrop here. Let's create a level 2. So here we'll just go paint. Let's create another backdrop. So go here, outline. And this time we've got to be really careful that we use exactly the same color as before. And the way we do that is nice and simple. All we do is click on the outline, click on the dropper tool, and choose green again. And now we've saved that green, and we can draw our lines for level 2. So let's say we've got level 2 line there, there, and there. Again, you can do on there as well. Let's do there as well. Let's do some little ones, in fact. Oops. Let's do some little jumpy lines there. Why is that? Why's that done that? I don't know why that's done that. There we go. We'll get rid of that one. Move that over there. Move that over there. There we go. So we got nice. Let's do that there. There we go. So a bit of a gap this way to see if he falls. So here we've got the level 2. So make sure that's called backdrop 2. And now all we need to say here, if we go back to the sprite, is we duplicate this and we say, okay, if the level equals 2, then we need to change it to backdrop 2. That's okay. Change that to backdrop 2. Get rid of that goto because we need to do a different goto. And now if we go to backdrop 2, it gets us in the right position. Drag the cat back over to the right position where you want it to start. I'm going to get it to start there. And then, if we go back to our level 2 here, we can do the goto again, but this time the goto has changed its coordinates, so you'll go to the right position. Good. So we're about ready now. Once it switches to level 2, it'll change to backdrop 2 and it'll go to there. But how do we get it to change to backdrop 2? Well, actually, this is nice and easy. All we do is make sure we're on the correct backdrop because we're going to use that. And then we go back to our code, back to our sprite, and here on the bottom of after our move horizontal, move vertical, all we do here is we just say, okay, if we are touching the that color, this brown color, so if touching color and then choose that brown, there we go. We do two things. What we do is, if we're touching the brown, then what we do is we broadcast a signal, and this is going to be called next level. Next level. There we go. Good. Broadcast next level. And then when I receive next level, then what we're going to do is say, okay, when I receive next level, we're going to change the level by 1. So it's going to increment it. Change the level by 1. So if it was level 1, it will go to level 2. Second of all, we're going to stop all the other scripts in this sprite because we don't want any of these scripts working. Stop other scripts in the sprite. And then finally, we're going to broadcast start level. So hopefully now what will happen is it'll stop everything, change the level, and then start the new level in the right position. So let's find that out. Let's see if that works. So 1, 2, and there you go. Works perfectly. So now he's gone through to this level 2. Now level 2 here, what we also want to say is, okay, if he's touching the floor, like here, then what we need to do is we need to restart the level again. So how do we do that? Well, all we do here is we do a similar thing. So duplicate, and this time we don't do touch and color. What we do here is we say, okay, if we are right down at the bottom, so watch what happens with Scratch. We press play. Let's just move him off the bottom. There you go. You can see his Y coordinate is dropped right down there somewhere. That's minus 191. What we want to say here is, okay, if his Y coordinate is less than minus 179, which is the bottom of the screen. So if his Y position is less than 179. Then we broadcast start level, which puts him right back to the start of the level. So let's see if that works. Hey, look at that. Perfect. Good. So now if he ever falls onto the floor, then he will go back to the start of the level. Good. Should work on there as well. Yep, you can see. So it doesn't matter which level it's on, it just goes back to the start of that particular level, which is good. And we also want to do it as well. So let's say if he touches a particular colour, we might want like a colour that's a bit of a danger colour, like red. Then he also wants to go back to the start of the level. That's nice and simple. Let's do backdrops. Let's go to the backdrop. And all we do here is we'll just add a different colour. I'm going to use red. Let's draw a line. And I'll do a red line there. A bit of a danger colour. There we go. And same sort of thing here. Come back to our sprite. Now what we can do here, we could just duplicate this and say, do it that all over again. Or, rather than do an extra code, we can just use an OR. So an OR works where it says, okay, if either of these two conditions is true, then you can do it. So if his Y position is down the bottom, so he's fallen off the floor, or if he's touching the colour red, let's use that dropper, there we go, then either of those conditions are met, then you can go back to the start of the game. So let's have a look, start of the level. So let's try that. He jumps up, there we go, and there you go. You can see there as he touched it, or if he hits the floor, he goes through. Good. Okie dokie. So those are those bits done. That's level 1 and 2. Now, the only other thing to show you, there's a couple more things to show you. We're almost finished now. So, let's have a look. A couple more things. So here we have 2 more things. We have a moving platform, which is nice and simple to do. And we also have a game over screen at the end, the you win. I don't know why that's not hiding, but we'll find out in a minute. We'll get that fixed. So let's say here we get to level 2. Let's add a level 3. There we are. So in order to get a level 3, we're going to need... Where's that backdrop here? Let's just click on that. I'm going to copy that. And I'm going to paste that here. And I'll put it there. That's backdrop 2. And then we'll create a new backdrop. Let's put that in backdrop 3 as well there. Here we go. And we'll just do I'll do a moving platform on this one. So this one again, we're going to need that green. So we'll go here, dropper, green, and then go back to the one you need it on. So let's say here we start at the top. Oops. By the way, if you see here, where my platform, it's moving, you can do it in any angle. If you want to stop it so that it only does it in 90 degrees, like that way, or 45, or that way, so it locks it, just hold shift while you're creating the line, and then it will force it into one of those 3. So there's 1, that's 2, and what we'll do here is, let's say that one's there. So that's the one at the bottom there. This is our start platform there. Oops. There we are, and we'll do one more maybe. Let's have a look, do one more line there. And in between, we want a moving platform that goes up and down. What we need to do there is we can't add that into the backdrop. Because it moves, it must be a sprite. So what we do here instead is we create ourselves a sprite by clicking paint. Again, use the line tool, that's all fine. And just paint your sprite somewhere, the platform that's going to move. And now, there we go. There's a bit of a glitch here, I don't know why, but when it's set to vector art and it's on its own, for some reason mine doesn't appear in there, I don't know why. So what I'll do is I'll click convert to bitmap, and then for some reason that actually lets it work. There we are. There he is, so he's there, that's okay, good. So there's my platform that's going to move up and down, that's my moving platform. And what we do here is we say, okay, this platform is going to do not a lot until it gets to the right level. So what we can do here is to say, okay, when the game starts, we don't want that platform to show, so we'll just hide him, because he's going to be hidden until level 3. And then what we say is, okay, when I receive start level, there we go, if the level is if the level is 3, if level equals 3, if the level equals 3, then what we'll do is we will show. Otherwise, we will hide. There we go. And what we'll also do is we'll stop other scripts in this sprite. There we go. We'll do that first. Stop other scripts in this sprite, and then we'll do that. Once we've done all that, then we will do another script here. Let's have a look. In fact, we'll do my blocks, make a block, and we'll call move platform. This one we can leave run with screen refresh because it's not too important. And we'll just move the platform. So what do we got to do to move the platform? Well, all we'll do is we'll just keep repeating forever. All we want to do is we want him to move up and then move down. So how do we do that? Well, oops, that's not that. There we are. Where's he at? Let's show him. If he hides while you are coding it, by the way, just drag a show in here and just double click. There he is. Good. So our moving platform, we want him to start here at the start of the level. So we'll move him to where we want him to start. And then what we'll do is we'll do, there we go to. So he goes down to that point right there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to glide him to a different position. We're going to glide him up there, and then we're going to glide him back. But what we'll do first is we'll just glide here to the same position, which is a bit weird. I know you're like, hang on, why is they doing that? But then what we'll do is we'll glide it to there, up, and now it's changed the position, and we'll stack that above it. There you go, just above it there. So now what it does is when we get to level 3, there you go, if I can click that, he will move up and he will move down. And that's about the speed I want him, really. He's okay like that, which is good. And that, hopefully, I think should do it. Let's see if that works. So let's see if that works. Here we go. So here we go, we're on level 1. Again, always with these things, you've got to debug them, make sure they're working correctly. There we go. And I'm going to look at that. Whoa, there we go. Look at that code in a minute. There you go. So we get to level 2, and now we can see we've got to level 3, and it hasn't worked. So we need to find out why. Let's have a look. Have I added the code for level 3? Ooh, nope. Where's that? That's why. Because there's no code for level 3. So here we go. If we go to level 3, when we receive level 3, change it to backdrop 3. And we also need to change this go-to position here. So we'll just stop the game, go to backdrop number 3. And we want to move him to where we want him to start, which is there. Go back to our code and get rid of that one. And we need to replace it with this new one there. There we go. So that should fix that now. Let's find out. All right. So we've got level 1. Oops. Level 2. There you go. And now on to level 3. And on level 3 it shows. So perfect. Brilliant. So now we're pretty much about there. We've just got the last couple of little bits. We'll do a game over screen. Let's do the game over screen quickly. That's nice and easy. For the game over screen, all we do is we create another backdrop. Again, you can take time to do this, but I'm just doing it quickly. Use the text. Here we go. Game over. Or if not game, let's call it you win. You win. And we'll just make that a bit bigger. Again, you could take your time to do a good job of it. So we'll just do you win. And there we go. Done. And there we go. You win. Here we go. Brilliant. And that's on level 4. So level 4 is you win. And what we can say here is just go to back to the sprite there. If the level equals 4, what we'll do there, if level equals 4, what we'll do is we will hide Scratch because we're no longer need him. So we'll hide him because he's going to be hidden. Change the backdrop to backdrop 4. And we're going to stop all scripts, which will stop everything from working. Stop all. There we go. because we've got to the end, which is fine. But before we do that, we'll just put a tiny little weight in there. Where's this? Not 1 second, but we'll just do 0.1 second. There we go. And the reason we put that tiny 1/10 of a second weight is because if we instantly stop this here, this sprite here won't have chance to hide. So here, where it goes, okay, start level, it won't have chance to hide. There you go. So hopefully now, let's see if that works. Let's see. Okay, so we go to there. Oh no, it won't work, will it? Because I don't think I've got a. Oh no, it might do. Let's try. Walk down there. Ooh. Bouncing up and down. There you go. Brilliant. So, there we go. And now the only thing we need to sort is this lift here, where when he falls down, the lift moves faster than he actually drops, which is why he does this bouncing thing here. So, how do we fix that? Well, the easiest way to fix that is just to go into the sprite here and change it from gliding 1 second from that position to the other, and change it to 2 seconds. There you go. You can see it's much better there. You can even change it to 3 if you want it to go slower. So it's all up to you, really. It depends exactly how you want to do it. So, but there you go. That's all done. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and please do add your own games, create your own games. If you do create your own games, please add them in the comments so I can take a look at them in the links. If there's any questions, just pop me a comment. And if you did like the tutorial, then please do like and subscribe. Thank you very much.